Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonnet, the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms. And in today's video, you guys are getting a thrift to treasure. So I am taking 10 items that I recently thrifted and we are transforming them into beautiful treasures. This video also includes all the items that can be found in the maker's box, and this is the January box, you guys. So it's a January reveal. And just keep in mind though, even if you're not a subscriber to the maker's boxes, you can get a ton of inspiration from this video. So don't stop watching. Anyways, if you are interested in being a subscriber of the maker's box, I am opening up additional spots for the February box, which is the spring box, you guys. And it's a good one. You don't want to miss out on that. All right, guys, enjoy today's video. For project one, well, I was out thrifting recently. I found this sign and I'd had a really good bones. Unfortunately, my husband dropped it, and when he dropped it, it actually broke. But that is what I have glue for, you guys. I am not short of that. So in today's project, what we're going to do is, first and foremost, we're going to remove these letters. They are vinyl letters. And you guys, this tool that I ended up getting in a package, like I won this package of paint supplies, and this was in there. It is actually called a glass scraper, and I'm assuming its intention is to scrape off the paint on glass. So this has been my go-to tool to take off stickers and letters like this. I will have it linked in the description below if you want to grab one for yourself. After removing the letters, I noticed that it did leave like a sticky residue. So I am using a product called Soak Off, and I discovered this a while ago when I needed to remove some gel nails. And I've tried it on so many other applications and it works wonders. So I'm just using a little bit on a piece of cotton ball and I am just wiping it off, and it immediately takes off that sticky residue. Now that I've prepped the sign, now let's get busy with the rice paper. This rice paper is created by Connie from The Painted Photographer. And if you aren't familiar with Connie, she is an amazing artist. She hand draws all her designs, and then she uses DIY paint and she paints them and then adds her signature Connie lines. She creates 2 exclusive papers for the maker's box, and this one is called Winter Freeze. And she knows how much I love birds, and this one was a perfect addition to the box. So what I'm doing is I am actually using the water method, where I take a paintbrush and I just draw a line of water on each of the sides of this paper. I like it because rice paper has fibers built in, so when I wet the paper and then I tear it towards myself, you don't get that crisp, clean line. It has more of like a wispy look to it. It's very authentic looking, and it helps blend the paper into whatever project you're applying it to. I initially had a completely different vision for this project. I found these papers on Amazon and I thought I would just grab random pieces, tear them so they have a very rustic look on each edge, and then just randomly place it all over. I then decided it was too busy. So I broke out Walk on Water, which is the new DIY paint color, and I'm applying just 2 even coats of Walk on Water to this. And if you actually look at the rice paper, there is a little bit of Walk on Water within that bird. And so when I apply that paper to this, it just really makes that Walk on Water pop out of the rice paper. While that's drying, what I'm going to do is paint the back side of the rice paper. That way, when I apply it to the color Walk on Water, the paper just really pops off the actual color. So I'm going to let this dry and we're going to come back and we're going to pull this whole project together. Guys know how I can't throw anything away. In October at my retreat, Jane Belante brought these papers. They are full of just inspirational sayings, and I grabbed those and we're going to use them in today's project. Now, I am going to use liquid patina, and we're going to use the liquid patina to apply the rice paper and the sayings. So what I did is I went through, I cut out all the different sayings that really applied to me and 2025. This is a project that I'm going to keep for myself, and it's going to be housed in my studio so that I can be reminded of it all year long. For project 2, anytime I'm out thrifting, I'm always grabbing signs that have good bones. I love repurposing them. Now, this one was a bit long, so I just took it outside. I cut it down on my saw, and what we're going to do is this is going to be a very, very easy flip, you guys. So I'm first and foremost going to be just painting it white. I'm going to apply a piece of decoupage paper on here, and it's one of Royce's that she creates for my maker's box, but I do like my papers to pop, plus there's writing on here. So if I would apply the decoupage paper down, that writing would most likely be seen through the paper. So I'm applying 2 even coats of White Swan to this piece. I'm going to let it dry, and then we're going to come back and we're going to apply the paper. It's completely dry, so we are using the paper called Boho Floral Skull. And this is a Roycycled decoupage paper, and Royce does create 2 exclusive papers for my Maker's Box each and every month. I love this one, you guys. I love how it has a bit of, that boho feel to it, plus the florals. It gives you like a little sense of spring that's awaiting us. So in order to apply this, we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need liquid patina, which is my go-to decoupage medium. And then I'm going to need my misting bottle, and we are going to start applying it. Now, you're going to see I struggled on this one, you guys, because normally what I do is I start with the shorter side. So I should have cut it down, and then I should have actually, instead of applying it to the entire top like I'm doing, I should have started on my left side and then just flipped it over. It's easier to control if you're using the shorter side. Well, you're going to see when I apply it or lay it down, I start getting a lot of wrinkles, and you can see right away. Lots and lots of wrinkles. What I do then is I eventually cut it down, and then I go to that left side and I start working that way. But I'm going to show you my struggles. I like to be real with you guys and try to show what issues I have and how it will make it easier for you to use. After it's all dry, what I do is take a piece of sandpaper, and in a downward motion, I sand away the excess paper. I do that all the way around, and the key is you want your project to be completely dry before you tackle this step. And the very last thing that I do is I want my project to be finished. So the around the edge, it's all black except the side where I cut. So I'm using coal black from Fusion, and this was actually in one of the previous Maker's boxes. And I am just going to reapply coal black around the entire perimeter of the sign. And really, guys, this is as easy as it gets. And I love how the sign turned out. For project 3, when I was thrifting at Goodwill, I did find this little crate, Lost Socks, Seeking Soulmates. It was very inexpensive. In the Maker's Box this month, I also included a napkin, and this I thought went so well with the Boho Floral Skull, and I thought it would be a perfect addition to the box. So I'm using my little green scraper again to get off that tag, wipe down my project, and then I'm using White Swan from DIY, and I am going to cover up the Lost Socks sign, or the saying. I know you guys, some of you are going to love it, but as you can see, it has a little bit of damage on here. I don't know if they accidentally spilled something on here, maybe clothes soap. I have no idea. But I am putting 2 coats of White Swan on here, and then we're going to apply the napkin to it. Now, normally there's several layers to a napkin, and I don't know if you know this, but what is typically recommended is you remove those excess layers. You guys, I could not get it apart. I don't know if this one isn't 2-ply or 3-ply. I'm not really sure, but I just went with it. I left it as is and decided to tackle the inside of the crate instead. So you can see there is, like I said, that damage. I don't know if there was like clothes soap, what spilled on it, but we are using Elmwood from Fusion Mineral Paint. And Elmwood is one of the newer paint colors that they recently came out with. I love it. It's been very popular. And if you haven't used Fusion before, it is a one-step paint, so it has the sealer built in. And I'm applying just 1 even coat to the entire inside of the container, and it completely covers that damage, so you have no idea that somebody spilled something. And I really love how the inside, it almost like finishes the inside off. And once I apply that napkin to the front, you guys, it is going to pull this whole piece together. Now I'm cutting the napkin in half, and we are going to apply the 1/2 of the napkin to the front. And you guys, this just makes me feel so springy, just seeing all these beautiful florals, this botanical. I'm using liquid patina with this as well, and this is definitely my go-to decoupage medium. I'm doing the exact same thing I would with decoupage paper or rice paper. I'm doing my starter strip, and I want a nice even layer of the liquid patina. I lay my paper down, take my paintbrush, and just work out all the wrinkles. The one thing I've been hearing is with napkins that people get a lot of wrinkles. I think that if you do it like this and use that starter strip method where you put the starter strip down, lay your paper down, smooth out the wrinkles, and then work your way down, it gives you so much better control. And that is with, the decoupage paper, the rice paper, and now even with these napkins. Now that it's dry, I am taking a piece of sandpaper and I'm going to get rid of the excess napkins. And that's the key. I always reinforce this. Make sure your project is completely dry before you move on to this step. Otherwise, you're going to risk tearing off the paper, whether it be decoupage paper or this napkin from your project. I want to add one last little detail to the front of this little box. So I am using the casting resin, and this is the 10-minute casting resin. And I will have this linked in the description below, along with these little silicone cups, you guys. They are definitely my go-to when mixing any of the resin. It's so nice because they're reusable, and the resin, any excess resin in there just pulls right out and you can reuse it. If you haven't used the 10-minute resin, you only have 10 minutes before it sets up, or it sets up, I should say, within 10 minutes. But you put in part A, equal parts of part A and part B. You mix it until it's clear, and then you start pouring. And you want to pour as quickly as possible. And then what happens is the resin heats up and then it turns white. Once it's all completely white, it's set up and you can use your resined piece. And what I've done is I've mixed up enough because I want to use these on another project that I am actually going to be working on. So I thought I would pour it all together, at one time. And then I had a little extra, and then I grabbed another mold and I poured the extra in this other mold. And you guys, that's the one I used. So here it is, and the mold, I am going to be painting just the very edges elmwood. And I think by tying the elmwood to the very edge, it's just going to pull the whole project together. So I'm using a very fine tip detailed brush, and I'm going around and I'm just painting the entire edge. Now it's time to add a word, and I just decided I'm going to call it junk. This is going to be like my little box where I can put junk. And I'm using the stamp set called Apothecary Labels, and this has 4 different fonts, and they are really small fonts, so you can use them on small pieces. I absolutely loved that the IOD sisters came out with this. So what I do is I just lay out the words or all the letters on my project. I take a piece of thin mount, and I always take a big piece of thin mount and I chop it up into different sizes, and then I pick up my stamps with that thin mount. I then ink it up with the black permanent ink. I lay down the letters again, and then very gently I rub all over, and there you have it, junk. The final step is to use Type On to glue it down. Just put a little bit in the center, take your finger, rub it, and feather that glue to the edge, and then lay it down. And I use my thin mount to make sure it is in the center because you want everything centerized, guys. And there you have it. This project is complete. For project 4, I found this cutting board, and you guys, it was chunky. It caught my eye right away, and I only paid, I think, like $4.99 or $5.99 for it. So it was a really great price. I'm using White Swan, and the side that has a bit of damage to it, that is what I'm going to cover up. So I'm applying just 1 even coat of White Swan to that entire piece, and then we're going to apply some decoupage paper. For this project, we're using the Boho Floral Skull, and again, this is Roycycle's decoupage paper that she creates exclusive for my Maker's Box. I want to show you, though, that you don't necessarily have to use the entire paper. You can use chunks of this paper, and so like even with the skull, you can actually cut off the horns, and you still get a great effect on this cutting board. I'm breaking out my liquid patina. You guys know it, my go-to decoupage medium. And just like I always do, I start with my starter strip, and I'm also using my misting bottle. The question often comes up, why are you misting the paper? You are activating the fibers in the paper, and it is another way to prevent wrinkles in your decoupage paper. So I mist the paper, I apply just a nice even layer of the liquid patina, lay down my paper, I take my paintbrush and work out all the wrinkles, and then I work my way down. Now that I've sanded off my excess decoupage paper, we're going to add the final details. I went into my stash of spindles, found that perfect spindle, and we are going to use the color called Chestnut Mare. And this is a new fusion mineral paint, you guys, and it's so beautiful. And it matches the florals or the botanicals in this skull perfectly. So I'm applying 2 even coats of this Chestnut Mare to the spindle, and I'm going to let it dry in between coats, and then we're going to use my brad nailer, and we are going to brad nail this spindle onto the cutting board. I line the spindle up and I make sure that it's directly in the center because you want everything centerized. And then I take my brad nailer and I apply 4 to 5 brad nails into the spindle. You definitely want to make sure you have enough brad nails in to secure it. After that, I use some vinyl wood putty to fill in the holes and then repaint with some additional Chestnut Mare. The last thing I did is I actually painted the entire perimeter of the board Chestnut Mare, and I did that to pull the whole project together. For project 5, anytime I'm out thrifting and I find enamelware, you guys, I'm grabbing it, even if it is only the lid. Now, my vision for this project was I wanted to use this rice paper and put the rice paper on top. I was planning on removing the little knob, but it would not come off. So my secondary option is I'm taking my scissors. I'm going to slice a spot where I want it to kind of fit in, and then I'm going to figure out where the handle is, and I'm going to then cut a hole in my paper so it fits around the actual handle. And I do a fairly good job. There was just a little bit of a space where in the end I just ripped another little piece of paper and I kind of fit that in there, and you never knew the difference. After I had that all figured out, I used the paintbrush method. And initially, I just took my paintbrush and I kind of tore just the edges. I kind of squared it off. And then once I got that on there, I realized I did not like how square it was. Because the lid was round, I wanted to make the image round as well. Now I'm using liquid patina to apply the rice paper to the enamel lid. I lay down my rice paper, get it situated exactly where I want it, and then I lift up a portion of the rice paper and I start applying the liquid patina. And I do this with all projects. I want my paper situated exactly where I want it before I start applying the liquid patina. After I get this all applied, I then smooth out the entire rice paper, and then I take one coat of liquid patina and put it over the entire lid. Now, I felt like the lid needed something else. Jane Belante, at my retreat, she brought these sayings for her project. And I can't let anything go to waste, so I grabbed all those papers and now I used them in this project and another project that I just did. And I thought it was the perfect little saying for this bird, and it's going to fit perfectly on someone's shelf. For project 6, I'm using the Roycycled decoupage paper called Antique Postage, and this is exclusive to the Maker's Box. I did pick up this Lazy Susan, and I thought it was really cool. It was made out of bamboo, but I did not like how it actually had like this image engraved into it. So I want to cover the top with the decoupage paper, and it's so easy to do this, you guys. So normally I would sand off the excess, but because it is inside the round portion of the Lazy Susan, I'm very easily just taking my fingernail and I am tracing and making a line so that I can cut the round out with a scissors. What I love so much about Royce's papers is that they are so unique. She designs each and every one of them. She finds these amazing images and then creates her decoupage paper. So the other thing is, just by using a simple piece of paper like this, it can completely transform an outdated piece and give it new life. I'm using a product called Plastic Wood, and it was a little bit dry, so I took a chunk, added it into that plastic container with a bit of water, and then I softened it back up. As you can see, there's an image that is actually like etched into the top of this Lazy Susan, and I want to hide as much of it as I possibly can. So I am just using this plastic wood, and I am taking a little scraper and I'm putting that into the image, and it completely fills it all in, and you never knew it was there. After it's completely dry, I'm taking White Swan and I'm going to paint the entire top White Swan, and then we're going to apply the decoupage paper. Next, I'm using liquid patina and I'm going to lay my paper down exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to do exactly what I always do, you guys. I am going to start with a starter strip, mist my paper, lay the paper down, smooth it out. And what I love about decoupage paper is that this is the easiest way to transform an item. So take an outdated piece and completely transform it. And I love the outcome of how this looks in the end. And I think it's going to look so cool, like on a table or, housing some glasses or a candle or what have you. But it's a perfect addition to anyone's house now. For project 7, while I was out thrifting, I found this little wood crate. It was so stinking cute, you guys, but I felt like it needed a bit of updating. So for starters, what I decided to do was take my scraper and try to scrape off that painted image. I couldn't get it off. So I took my sandpaper and I sanded it. I do want to put a piece of decoupage paper on the front of this, and I didn't want that image to show through at all. Even with painting it, I felt like because it was raised a little bit, you would still see it. So I sanded it down, wiped it all down, and it was ready for the decoupage paper. I do want my paper to really pop, so I'm using White Swan from DIY Paint, and I'm applying just one even coat of the White Swan. After it dries, I lay down my decoupage paper. I still have a portion of the antique postage, and I'm using the portion of it with the postage stamps on it. So I line it all up, and once I get it all lined up, I then start applying my liquid patina, which is my go-to decoupage medium. I mist my paper, and then I lay it back down, and I work from one side to the other, and this really helps alleviate a lot of those wrinkles. I always talk about this, but I feel like I really need to reinforce this to you guys. So, but it is the easiest way to do this, and it's such a simple way to transform an outdated piece or a piece that may not even be outdated, but you just need to change it to fit your home decor. So maybe you're changing your room and you still love the piece, but it just doesn't go with what you're changing in your decor. And you can change that so easily by just adding some decoupage paper. After it's completely dry, I always just take a piece of sandpaper and in a downward motion, I sand away the excess, and then I always put one additional coat of the liquid patina over the entire piece to give it a little added protection. Now this piece could have been complete just at that point, but I decided I wanted to use the color Letterpress Gray from DIY Paint and add that to the inside of this little wood crate. I felt like it was just going to make it or take it to the next level, give it a more upscale look, and I just applied one even coat of the Letterpress Gray to the entire inside. I let it dry, and if you haven't used DIY paint before, you do need to seal it. And normally I would use DIY's Big Top, but on another project, I actually had a bunch of extra Sweet Pickens top coat, and so I am using that to seal the inside. And you guys, it worked perfectly. I always try to demo like mixing and matching different product lines to see how they work with each other, and this one worked perfectly well. So if you don't have Big Top and you have Sweet Pickens, it works with the DIY paint. For project 8, I'm using Sweet Pickens Milk Paint in the color Window Pane. If you guys haven't used Sweet Pickens before, it is super, super easy. All you do is take 1 part milk paint to 1 part warm water, and I just measure it out. Sometimes I add just a little tiny bit of extra milk paint because you want the consistency of a melted milkshake. And the one thing I love about milk paint is that the unpredictability of it. So you never know how it's going to react to a surface. Sometimes it just soaks right in. Sometimes you get some chippiness. You end up getting some crackle goodness. If you want to enhance that crackle goodness, then you want to heat it up a bit. But I love the unpredictability of milk paint. I whisk it until it is smooth, and then I let it sit for 10 minutes until it has that same consistency of a melted milkshake. And then I'm ready to apply it. And I just go ahead and apply 1 even coat. If there's an area that needs more paint, I then add it. And if as it's drying, if you do heat it up with a heat gun, you can encourage additional crackling, you can encourage some chippiness. Otherwise, you can just leave it dry as is and allow it to just do what it naturally would. After it's completely dry, I do take a piece of very light grit sandpaper and I sand all over the entire piece, and it does give it that really smooth finish. And then it also allows, if there's an area that does have some chippiness, it allows that chippiness to chip away. And I love how this looks like authentically distressed and just natural, like aged looking. After that, I do seal it with a top coat. Sweet Pickens also has an oil wax, which I absolutely love. So you do need to seal Sweet Pickens milk paint and either do that with one of their top coats or their oil wax.
Give me your strength and show me your weakness. We're in this together now. We're in this
For
together
project
now.
9, I actually found this really cool frame, and this is a very, very simple way to use Connie's paper. So Connie from The Painted Photographer, she creates 2 exclusive papers for my Maker's Box, and I just love the designs that she comes up with, you guys. I give her a vision, and she just creates these most amazing designs, and they are pieces of artwork, and so you can simply frame the artwork and change it out with the seasons. So that is exactly what I am doing here. So I found this really cool frame. I thrifted it, and I am taking her piece of artwork called New Year's Key, and I'm cutting it to size, and I'm going to just place it in the frame. But after I place it in the frame, I thought I should probably add a little saying of inspiration to this image. And so that's what I'm doing. So I'm using IOD's Apothecary Labels, and it is a stamp set that has 4 different fonts. And I am choosing a font, and I am going to stamp out a saying on here. What an easy way to completely transform and create something inspirational that you can set on a shelf or on your desk and look at each and every day. After I'm done stamping, I put it back in the frame, and there you have it. Well, I sure hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to hearing what you guys think. What was your favorite project in today's video? There were 10 of them, so there's a lot. But there was a lot of items in the maker's box, and I had so much fun creating. So some upcoming things, you guys. I've officially opened up my membership group. Typically I open it up in March and in October. With my retreat being in October, I have decided to change things up in 2025. So I'm opening it up now in January, and the next time it will be July. So if you want in on my membership group, it is going to be officially open for 2 weeks. So from January 6th to January, I probably should have those dates, but it is like that following in 2 weeks on Tuesday, I'm closing it at that point. So I will have the dates listed in the description below. But you guys, I'm having so much fun creating with the maker's box, and I know you guys will too. All right, well, we will see you guys in the next one. And if you haven't done so, give me a like or a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys, and let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.